now they're faced with a very real prospect of Donald Trump becoming the leader of the party, and it absolutely drives them crazy. They just cannot imagine sharing. Well, because he's an outsider. He's not them. He's not part of the club. He's uncontrollable. You know, he hasn't been through the initiation rites. He didn't belong to the secret society. And I think that they don't see him. They have no idea how to relate to him.
Trump's the ace of spades in the election game. With a full deck of Jews in his royal flush, he can play to win. It all started with Trump's father, whose apparent ties with New Jersey real estate mogul Murray Kushner got the business going. Donald's daughter is now married to Jared Kushner and turned Jewish to get him. With skyscrapers in his high-rising mind, young Donald set his sights on Manhattan, where Jewish sharks can send you packing. So he hired the well-connected and mobbed up Roy Cohn, a notorious Jewish homosexual, as legal counsel. Smart move, Donald, for without a high-powered Jewish lawyer in Hymietown, you might as well fold up. It's the place where Jewish business and organized crime meet, and Cohn knew just how to shuffle the cards. Trump's all in now, since all those connections Cohn brought in keep the ante high. You don't become a Manhattan real estate mogul without seeding the kosher pot. Donald's hand now includes Alan Weisselberg as CFO and Michael Cohen as legal boss. No lightweights here when dealing with the sharks. Trump knows how Hymietown works.
I think Schumer, who I'm very close to Israel, but Schumer comes from New York, very close. I have a great relationship, far better than our president has, that I can tell you, but who doesn't? I think Schumer did it with a wink. Not a bad guy, smart guy. He used to be a friend of mine until I did this, and I said, look, all bets are off. Look, I got to do what I have to do. I'm sorry. But I'll be able to get along with these people. You know, you got to be able to get along. You got to make deals. We can't always sign executive orders. The country wasn't based on executive orders. I mean, you got to get deals. So I pretty much believe, I mean, I really know the New York City. I think they gave Schumer a little wave off. They said, look, you go ahead, oppose it, and this way you're friendly, and he has a large Jewish constituency, to put it mildly, the largest.
To put it very mildly, if Trump becomes pres, there's going to be lots of Jewish IOUs called in. You gotta make those deals. Take Carl Icahn, who bailed Trump out of his Taj Mahal bankruptcy. Hi, Donald. Carl Icahn here. Happy Passover, Carl. What can I do for you? Since it's Passover, I'm releasing you from that added loan. And by the way, I'm in a deal that involves Israel and need your help. Name it, Carl, and I'll get it done. And Bibi can surely help Trump make it happen.
What do you think of the president's attitude towards Israel? Is he a friend of Israel?
No, I think he's one of the worst things that's ever happened to Israel. You look at what's going on, and I know Bibi very well. In fact, he asked me if I do a commercial for him. I think I'm the only so-called celebrity that did a commercial for him. And, you know, and it was a nice commercial and everything else, and I hope he's going to do great, and I think he's going to do great. But when you think about it, and I have so many friends of mine that contributed to the Obama campaign, I said that because they're so pro-Israel, I said, how can you contribute to the campaign? This guy is the worst thing that ever happened to Israel.
If Obama giving Israel $3 billion a year is the worst thing that ever happened to Israel, then imagine what Trump will do. Trump's ready to draw. But will the right cards ever come that will free us from Tel Aviv?
As I pointed out, since 1885, the Rothschilds were trying to start a world war because the Zionist International Congress at Basel, Switzerland, has called for 3 world wars. At the end of the 3rd World War, they would control the entire world.
At the end of the 3rd World War?
Which we're in now.
Are we in World War III now?
Well, I just filed a court paper in which I pointed out that 1 billion Christians are fighting a war to the death against 1 billion Muslims, which will leave Israel in charge of the world, which was predicted at the 6th International Zionist Congress in Basel, Switzerland in 1896. They had a speaker there who said, we're going to have three world wars, and in 1896 there had never been a world war. And so after the Zionist Congress in 1896, you had World War I, World War II, and now we have World War III.
The President took executive action on Iran yesterday, imposed those new sanctions. We saw General Flynn say Iran is on notice. What does that mean exactly?
It means we're watching.
Has there no military action off the table in Iran?
No.
Nothing's, honestly, nothing is off the table. I haven't eased anything.
Iran has been formally put on notice for firing a ballistic missile. Should have been thankful for the terrible deal the U.S. made with them. Also, Iran is rapidly taking over more and more of Iraq, even after the U.S. has squandered $3 trillion there. Obvious long ago.
Well, 15 years ago. 15 years ago, we didn't have people coming around. I mean, the whole thing. And in all fairness, we went after Iraq. They did not knock down the World Trade Center, okay? It wasn't the Iraqis that knocked down the World Trade Center. We went after Iraq. We decimated the country. Iran's taken over, okay. But it wasn't the Iraqis. You will find out who really knocked down the World Trade Center because they have papers in there that are very secret. You may find it's the Saudis, okay? But you will find out. But it wasn't Iraq.
This is not a conspiracy in the sense that it is usually used, the word is usually used, which is to denigrate an opposing argument. When someone in the United States says that that's a conspiracy or that's a conspiracy theory, by definition they mean it is irrational, illegitimate, and without proof. All I would suggest to people is that you look at the films of WTC-7, that third tower going down on September 11th. You look and listen to the reports on September 11th with the secondary explosions. These are not fantasies, they happened. You look at the reports on September 12th of the apprehension of Israelis with vans of explosives and cameras filming the events on September 11. These are not fantasies. And you look at the people riddling the American government, all of the Middle East people in State Defense and the National Security Council, Deputy Secretary of Defense Paul Wolfowitz, Undersecretary of Defense for Policy Douglas Feith, who used to be a friend of mine, by the way, from Philadelphia. These people were all part of the neoconservative movement. Many of these people are dual U.S.-Israeli nationals. All of their primary allegiance is to Israel.
I love Israel and honor and respect the Jewish faith and tradition. And it's important that we have a president who feels the same way.
Our policy in the Middle East has for decades been manipulated increasingly in terms of what benefits Israel and not what benefits the United States, even when that policy is articulated and supported by individuals who are sworn officials of the United States government. And to me, when a sworn official of the United States government, whether or not that person has dual Israeli citizenship, manipulates American policy, contrives crises and tragedies like 9/11, contrives wars like Afghanistan and Iraq, and now tries to get us into a war with Iran, all in the service of Israel, spending American lives in that process, they commit high treason, and they need to be treated in that manner.
My administration will stand side by side with the Jewish people and Israel's leaders to continue strengthening the bridges that connect not only Jewish Americans and Israelis, but also all Americans and Israelis. Together, we will stand up to the enemies like Iran bent on destroying Israel and her people. Together, we will make America and Israel safe again.
I look forward to working with you to advance security, prosperity, and peace. Israel is grateful for the broad support it enjoys among the American people, and I'm confident that the two of us, working closely together, will bring the great alliance between our two countries to even greater heights. May God bless America. May God bless Israel. May God bless our enduring alliance.
Do you think that they are going to stage another 9/11 event?
Oh, they almost have to. It has to be something further. I've said for a year, at least a year, that they've got to have another 9/11. And I don't know what they're going to do.